a trauma trainer and prevention specialist at Centerstone. I do like to say I'm a full millennial, and I provide not just a safe space, but a brave space, so you do not have to water down any of your experiences, and any question that you do have, please do not shy away from it. So this is mental health first aid, and like I said, I come from prevention and intervention programs. So learning objectives. Participants will be able to define mental health first aid, will be able to recall a mental health first aid action plan, will recall who could be a mental health first aider, and how mental health first aid impact the community. So before we actually bridge both of those words, I like to break them down first. So mental health includes our emotional and psychological and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and not just amongst ourselves, but how we act with ourselves. And it also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. And then first aid. This is the first and immediate assistance given to any person with either a minor or actual serious illness or injury. And care will be provided until you preserve life. So what is mental health first aid? So just as CPR assists you or an individual having a heart attack, mental health first aid help you assist someone experiencing a mental health or substance use challenge and or crisis. And the first aid is given until appropriate treatment and support are received or until the crisis is resolved. So we do have some mental health challenges and substance abuse challenges. So I'll start with mental health challenges first, and this is just a small example, there's a lot more. So we have anxiety disorders, depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, schizophrenia, eating disorders such as bulimia and actually being anorexic, disruptive behavior or dissocial disorders, ADHD, ADD, things of that sort, as well as neurodevelopmental disorders. So someone who is on the spectrum of autism and things of that sort is underneath that. And then substance abuse challenges, we have methamphetamine, fentanyl, stimulant abuse, cocaine abuse, Adderall abuse, meth abuse, opioid abuse, and I do understand that fentanyl is a type of opioid, but I do like to separate them, heroin abuse, prescription painkillers, and sedative abuse. So I know that we are talking about mental health first aiders, but I do like to, highlight that trauma is something that can affect you. And trauma does sound like a big word, but it's not as heavy as we might think. So what is trauma? Trauma is a distressful, disturbing experience that is perceived. And perceived is underlined because it's what you perceive as a threat to your own safety or well-being. And it creates significant and lasting damage mentally, physically, and emotionally. So we do have some type of traumas to actually consider. So we do have homelessness, so shout out to the people who were before me. We do have historical trauma, so that could be your environment or even just what your family went through, and now it's on your shoulders to handle. Then we have car accident, whether you were part of the car accident or saw it. Chronic illness of family, physical abuse and or assault, financial crisis, and financial crisis isn't always saying, oh my God, we're broke, but we are in Florida, and it's really expensive to live here, whether you grew here or flew here. So I do like to highlight that. Military trauma, and this includes the individuals that are serving as well as their spouses and children. War, terrorism, and political violence, as well as neglect. And neglect could be something that happened at 5 or 10, but you're 25 thriving now. And based on person, place, or thing, or even seasons, you might show up as that 5 or 10-year-old. Then we have forced family separation, and this isn't always children being removed from their homes, but it could be individuals who have pets. Do we have any pet owners in here? Right, love it, I do too. I have a lovely pit bull, but he thinks he's just a teacup Yorkie. Can you imagine if I say, if you come to Centerstone, you cannot leave for 28 to 32 days? Wouldn't that trigger you like, hey, I have a kid at home, I have to make sure they're fed, who's gonna take them out? So I do like to highlight that that is individual's family. Then we have witness to a crime, survival of homicide and or suicide, sexual abuse and or assault, disaster, natural and handmade, emotional and psychological abuse, and this could also be someone using food and silence as abuse, domestic violence, system trauma, and then the pandemic, COVID-19. Although 2023 is like 3 weeks away. So system trauma. I do like to highlight that at Centerstone we serve 2 different populations. So the first one is individuals incarcerated. If you understand that when they come home, they might ask you, what time is it? Well, every shift change, inmates have to go back into their cells and be counted. So that might help them feel safe. Something else is to understand that the diet that they have in there is completely different from the rubbish we might think is out here. So they might come home and ask for noodles or actually cook those things because it makes them feel safe. Also understanding that the way they clean or the way they might maneuver around is just probably them being cuffed to that convenience. And then another program that we do serve that might be a system trauma is alternative schools such as Horizons or Just for Girls. Have we heard of any of those schools? Are familiar with them? Awesome. So I do like to say at Horizon, our kids have clear backpacks. They go through metal detectors, and just like on Freedom Riders, if something happened, they might have to lay completely flat on the ground. And if they go to a regular school, eating with the principal is a delicacy and an award. But if something happened like that at Horizon, such as a food fight, they go eat with the principal and then they go back to class. That could be very triggering for a child that goes to Horizon and then they have to deal or, connect with their siblings at home that do not have that reality. And then Just for Girls is a pregnancy reform program as a high school. So part of their program is being students. Then the other part is teaching them how to be parents. So signing up for Medicaid, Medicare, how to make bottles, how to swaddle, as well as advocating for fathers. Because fathers do have a choice, and although they're not carrying the baby, they do have 100% of wanting to know what's happening. And then there is a middle school, and it's like MSA, but it's really for low-income students. It is an all-girl program. And then there is an elementary school. And some of those babies are there from 6 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon. I know, I saw your eyes. Yes, I was a former kindergarten teacher. And we would have to call some of them like, hey, do you not want the babies? They've been here all day. So where some of those kids will look at us as, you are my family, and they might be very disruptive when the weekend come because it's so unfamiliar. I just like to highlight that because we're servicing them, or they are our colleagues and coworkers. So why consider mental health first aid? So this is very like activity time. Please talk to me right before questions. So why do you think we would consider mental health first aid? Anyone can go.
I mean, our population has increased, and so you mentioned since 2020, there's added stress of living in Florida. So it seems like it's more common to see somebody like freaking out in the grocery store, like seeing people like talking to themselves. You see people more stressed out now.
Absolutely. You guys, eggs are like $4. That stresses me out. I connect. And then do anyone else want to add why would we consider mental health first aid?
Somebody may be hurting themselves or getting ready to hurt themselves or somebody else.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Awesome, both of y'all, thank you for sharing. So why consider it, right? It takes the fear and hesitation out of starting conversations about mental health or substance use by improving understanding and providing an action plan that teaches people to safely and responsibly identify and address a potential issue. So it kind of is up, but this is about military members, our veterans, and their families. So I just want to tap into that because this is a big population for Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto County. So 30% of active duty and reserve military personnel deployed in either Iraq and or Afghanistan have a mental health condition requiring treatment, with many experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, and major depression. And the Veterans Administration, also known as the VA, reports that approximately 22 veterans die by suicide each day. So while we're talking about this, someone is considering to say, this is too much for me. With higher education, statistics show that 75% of mental health illnesses develop before age 25. And there is a study that is showing that from age 12 and maybe 14, that's when mental health is starting to happen, which shows that millennials and Gen Z are really dealing with some things and don't know it's okay to really talk about it. And that makes colleges ideal locations for early identification. And mental health first aid lessen the severity and impact of mental health problems on campus, as well as encourage a brave and safe space for conversations and action plans to actually happen. So with public safety, this provides officers with more response options to actually help them better understand mental illnesses so they can respond to mental health related calls appropriately without compromising safety. So it's not just talking about the individuals that we serve, but we want to make sure that our public safety figures are safe and okay as well. Because if they're not okay, we might just lose someone who will be very tangible to the community. And I do like to highlight that at Centerstone, we have implemented a CIT training that happens quarterly to where law enforcement, correctional officers, and even school security guards, they come in, they learn about trauma as well as have conversations with people who are at Centerstone and try to figure out, why are you afraid of us? Why do you run away? And just bridge that gap so that we all look human. Because I do like to say the difference is I have a badge, you don't. But I just have the answer key to the test and I just want you to pass. So I'm not gonna look if you're cheating, but you have the answers in front of you. And then with our youth, this builds understanding of the importance of early intervention. and it teaches individuals how to help an adolescent in crisis or experiencing a mental health challenge. And I do like to highlight that for us, we might be thinking, what are we gonna fix for dinner? Oh my God, do they have enough clean uniform shirts? And they're probably stressing like, oh my God, Tommy broke my heart. And to us, it's like, you're 14, be quiet. But we want to actually tap into how that feels and create a space for them to say, well, I can show up authentically as me at home. Because if we don't provide those, whether in the school or in our housing and things of that sort, they might go out into the world and learn it themselves. This is why we see Gen Z kind of very entitled and doing things. And this generation have a lot to say. But we do want to give them a platform of, we want to hear what you have to say, but also teach them how to say it and when to say it. Because that is something that they're kind of lacking a little bit, but it takes for us to really say, well, we have a problem, let's bring them along, because at 14, that's 8th and 9th grade. So we're not tapping into that. The whole high school experience might not be so good for them. So who can be a mental health first aider? That is a question that I would love for someone to tell me. Who is qualified to actually be a mental health first aider?
Anybody.
Thank you for that. Yes, any and everyone. All of you all are mental health first aiders, okay? So as we said, anyone. So that includes teachers, supervisors, managers, first responders, caretakers, and caretakers also include your children that are helping you, because raising your parents at a certain age is so difficult. They do not listen. Then we have coworkers and colleagues, journalists, parents, friends, and siblings. And that's just a small list. But as I said, anyone and everyone is qualified to become a mental health first aider. All it does take is 5 days of a course. And if you are someone who's like, well, I can just sit down and do it within a shorter time, there is a 3-day course that just kind of go through how do you approach things, how do you talk about things, and advocate for not just you, but the community that we're servicing. So we have talked about mental health, trauma, and things of that sort. So I do like to break down mental health first aid as an action plan. So there is an acronym called ALGE. So A is assess for risk of suicide or harm. I do like to highlight that some risks or things that to pay attention to, if someone who is giving away their things, someone who are writing down letters or notes, someone who is kind of separating themselves, or actually masking. And what that means is if you're bubbly, they're bubbly and smiling. But when they go into their car or back away from you, they're like, oh my God, blah. And harm could be things of, I'm not gonna eat, I actually wanna starve myself, maybe I want something bad to happen to me so someone pay attention to me, or actually them harming you. L is listen non-judgmentally. And I know it's very easy to say, well, but that don't really connect to them. So something I like to say is, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not know the answer right now. And I won't take up your space. So if you want to cry, I won't cry with you. That's not my love language, but you do have space to cry, right? But something that I've noticed is that, say with our younger ones, you can actually put up a pillow or a border. So they can really talk but not see our facials. Because some of the things they tell me, I'm like, whoa, that's happening to you at 15? Okay. Something else is to say, especially with elders. They tell you something, how I respond is, I heard you say this. Did I hear you correctly? I just want to make sure I'm actually hearing you. So that someone, sometimes they're talking, they're like, I didn't say that. And it's like, yeah, you did. So it is okay to say that, like, well, I heard you say this. Am I hearing you correctly? Is that what you want to actually say? G is give reassurance and information. Reassurance is a question of, how can I support you in this moment? How can I help you? What do you need from me? And if not from me, what do you need from someone else? Can I get you something? Can I get you to someone? And then information just could be, affirmations, daily affirmations. If they are religious or spiritual, pray for them. And praying, you could be in silence and just say, well, just say amen whenever I say amen. Things of that sort are things that help people say, I hear you, I see you, and you are valid and important. E is encourage appropriate professional help. At Centerstone, I love to say we love food. There's vending machines and, snacks everywhere there. So I like to say, here's a Snicker, you're not like yourself when you're hungry. Do you want to go for a 15-minute walk? We do get 2 of them. Also, we do get 6 free therapy sessions. So I do like to say, go talk to someone. If you like to talk to someone. If you do not like to talk, go talk to someone. And if you do not feel safe with that at all, it's okay to write those things down. I know all of us have these lovely, expensive phones, whether it's an Android or iPhone. Video chat yourself or writing your notes. But also understand that someone might just not want to be left alone. They want to be alone, like, please leave me alone. But actually don't leave me physically in this space. And then E is encourage self-help and other supportive strategies. So something else at Centerstone, we actually do have a calming app that is at our access. So it is okay for us to pull that out a little bit. Something else they encourage is go for a walk, do some self-care. I like to say self-care is something just how we have multiple ways to get home. We have to have multiple ways to get back to us. So if last week it was a piece of cake, have it. Like we cheat on diets, it don't matter. If this week is a hug, go find whoever make you feel the best with the hug and just go fall into their arms. And if next week is silence, sit with yourself, it's okay. Something else I like to highlight is it's okay to not be okay, like I said. It's okay to not know the answer. And it is okay to say, I need a break. We all deserve it. We are not robots, we are human. So if you find yourself in that space wanting to help someone, please don't forget yourself. I do like to say whether your cup is half empty or half full, make sure something's in it. Because you cannot be a great friend to me and you're not a friend to yourself. And you can't tell me to eat breakfast and you didn't eat until dinner. So, let's make sure that we're tapping into the things that we're telling other people to do and we're not forgetting ourselves. And understand that you do not always have to show up as 50% or 99. I like to say just give me 1%. I'll handle the 99. That's probably the only way you can show up is 1% or 5%, and that's okay. And then a continuum. Mental health problems are common. And how we counteract that is to learn how to notice when someone needs help. Mental health is not like someone cutting their arm off. I do like to highlight that because a lot of people say, well, you don't look sick. Thanks. My brain is hurting right now. I'm neurodivergent. I have a high functioning ADHD and I'm actually autistic. And because I wasn't disruptive in class, no one ever noticed. But how I learned the difficulty and things of that sort, I had to tap into and I really had a challenge in college. Something else is stigma is associated with mental health problems. How do we actually deal with that is promote understanding. All of us have mental health. We might not have a mental illness, but mentally we are all responsible to work that muscle out and, do some things that actually encourage, some strength in that. Professional help is not always on hand. So encourage community members to support one another. We are a community member to one another. So if I saw someone crying, I might just go by you and just stand. Something else I like to say, we're in the South. We're not in New York or nothing. So hey, how you doing is hey. Good in you is hey back. We probably would never say nothing else, but that encounter probably helps someone feel seen or heard or acknowledged. And we have no idea what it took for us to even show up today in this room. So thank you guys for showing up, even if you had something else to do or something else on your mind. Something else is individuals with mental health problems often do not seek help. Sometimes it's not safe to say, I don't feel good. So think about it with law enforcement. Are they really gonna tell someone they're depressed? They might say, well, I have a family to feed. I can't really afford to tell them that. So we definitely have to create spaces, if not with friends and colleagues, at least with our family members to say, you don't have to be your badge today. You don't have to be a uniform. I know you're an awesome nurse, but can you be a patient today? Can I take care of you and help you? Just sit down and take a nap. Because sometimes that's all it takes is to say, I got your back. You do not have to be strong and tough today. We got you. And then many people are not well informed and do not know how to respond. If someone was to pass out right now, do anyone know what to do? Some of us might, right, because of our qualifications, but then again, you might get choked up like, what am I supposed to do right now? Are we supposed to go get a fan like we're in church? Are they shouting? Do I go get a slip because they have on a dress? It could be a lot for you. So, hello, just stand them out. So we have to be very mindful, if something was to happen, how do I support that? And make sure that we're not necessarily going into like mommy, daddy mode, grandparents mode, but just saying like, well, if you feel weak, sit down. Do I need to go get you something to drink? Hey, you're a little red, you all right? If someone's off in a corner by themselves, especially children, go talk to them. Everyone knows the bad kid. And children are not bad, they're just sponges, so they just do what they're taught or not taught, right? But can you imagine that all the bad kids, you know their name. So for the child that's sitting in the corner that no one actually acknowledged, they might show up and show out because, well, you know Timothy's name and not mine. Timothy got to sit next to you in class and didn't have to do any work because you did not want them to have outbursts. But you had a lot of pressure on me to be the A student or the B student because you count on me to make the curve from everyone else. So make sure that we're looking at them. And then understand, like I said, I am neurodivergent, but I'm also a popular introvert. So I'm laughing and talking to you guys. At work, I tell people, I lock my door, I call it self-care, right? But I also, if I'm sitting in my car because my car is my best friend, don't talk to me. I'm not mad at you, but I'm just having a moment. I'm in my self-care. So make sure you have spaces that is safe for you. If you like water, go to the water. Emerson Point, Nathan Benison Park, go find some piece of water somewhere, wash your hands. Take a lovely hot shower, things of that sort. But just make sure that you're doing things that are helping you to where if someone actually needs that help, you actually have some different techniques and tools. And also understand someone needs to see you make it. A lot of things that we go through is not happening to us, but happening for us. And we probably do not understand it, but you might meet a child, a colleague, a coworker, and even older people older than you, even if it's a year, that need you. So, you know, just walk in and understand that, hey, I might not be having a good day, but someone else might not be having a good day. And if I try to stay positive, I could probably encourage them to think of another way. And how do we do that? Learn how to intervene, because you might save a life. We have no idea the battles that people might be facing at night. Night is very scary. It's very quiet and lonely, because it's a child right now that's like, I don't want to go home. Why? Because it's so quiet and lonely at night. It might be someone saying, I just can't wait till tomorrow morning. I can't wait till the sun come up because I don't really like the nighttime. So, you know, sometimes when you see someone, just say, hey, how you doing? I love that shirt. Shout out to the compliment you gave me, because that's the best compliment in the world, you know, but that just helped people see like the efforts that you made to just show up today. It was enough. You're worth it, and we see you. And then just to conclude, it really gives you the skills you need to identify and ultimately help someone in need. And I do like to highlight that First Lady Michelle Obama is a trained mental health first aider. So that does actually highlight that anyone and everyone can be. And if you're exposed to people, whether you have children and even your animals, please tap into that, because we probably can help our furry little ones, you know, help if they're kind of anxious and things like that. Like the hurricane is very anxious for them. If it's bad weather, things of that sort, as well as understanding that different populations, such as individuals with mental health, someone that might be incarcerated, their perspective is different from ours. Because I do like to say, can you imagine that someone went away for 6 years, right? They left with Instagram. We have TikTok, right? I just serviced someone yesterday and he was like, the camera's looking at me, and I was like, wait till you find out about Tesla. No gas, you gotta plug it up and it drive itself. It freaked him out. You know, so just understand that giving a lot of options might freak someone out, but also understand that with a little one, give them an option. Hot dog, hamburger. We know that the red and blue shirt match the pants and the shoes, so just give them that option. And if they say no, it's okay. When a child or someone tell you no, that means that you created a safe space for them to not have to mask and be a people pleaser. And I do like to conclude and say thank you so much. So do we have any? Yes, thank you. I was also going to raise their hand. So is there any questions?
How do you sign up to take mental first aid, take the course for mental first aid?
Awesome. So the question was, how do you go about becoming a mental health first aider? So I will say that you could just Google it. And it's a lot of different opportunities, because you might want to do mental health with youth. So I'm a youth mental health first aider trainer. It is different ones, say with veterans. It is another one with adults. So, you know, just figure out exactly where do you want to tap into at first. But it is something that you could do, whether just Googling it. They do have a website. And if that's like, I don't have time for that, just contact me and I will send it to you.
So it's through Cornerstone?
No, ma'am, it is not through Centerstone. It's not through Centerstone, but a lot of our managers and supervisors, as well as myself, we are mental health first aiders. But if you do need that service, please do not hesitate to reach out to Centerstone and we could give you that information.
I will also say that I believe Manatee County has some of the training available, and I'll be getting some information on what training is available from Manatee County, and including that in the report out we do on this event.
Yes, thank you for that.
I don't have a question, but I just want to applaud Centerstone. My daughter was married to a career Army person in Fort Campbell in 101st Airborne. And not only did he have the PTSD, but she did also. And she developed a very bad anxiety. And she found help through Centerstone.
Thank you. Thank you. I do like to say thank you for you and your family serving. And I do like to say that PTSD is not always leaving, but like I said, family and the spouses. Can you imagine if every 2 years we have to get up and leave? Your child might say, well, I don't want to make friends. Or as they get older, they might say, well, can we just be planted one place? I don't want to leave. But I do like to say thank you so much for your family actually servicing this country for us. And I'm so happy that we're able to provide services for you.
Thank you.
I was just generally curious on if Centerstone is seeing we've had a huge population increase in the last couple of years and stuff, but is there something trending that you guys are seeing more frequently? Like, okay, we're having to sign up more anger management classes, or, abuse has always kind of, like, substance abuse has always been a thing here? Or is it like, oh, it's like straight up fentanyl now, or things like that? Is there any trends that we should be aware of?
So the question really was, are there any trends happening in the community to where we can kind of best service them? So I will say fentanyl, opioid, cocaine, things like that is very high. Something that I do anger management, I do heroin opioid toolkit, recovery life skills, and 3 different type of parenting. And all of that is a necessity. We have some parents saying, well, I want to get into voluntary parenting. I do have a 15-year-old and I don't understand. Can you help me connect with them? I do drug court parenting, which means individuals who have been in the system, they got out and they just want to actually have a community type of base form for them. And then with active parenting, that is for parents whose children have been removed from them. And I notice with them, it's very difficult. So I will say, if you actually are dealing with someone or servicing them that really had mistakes and they've already done their time, let's just treat them as human. A lot of times they're very scared to reach out to us because they do not want to be reminded of what happened or where they come from. But I will say anger management is something that is arising. The homeless population is really high. We've had individuals that'll be like, I just hit the officer to get arrested, but because they have mental health issues, they are dropped off to Centerstone. And a lot of them say, well, I'm afraid to leave, I'm homeless. Something that we definitely are mindful of is if we're discharging someone, we do not say, oh, you're waiting for your ride? They may not have a car. We don't say, oh, you're waiting to go home? They may not have a home to go to. So sometimes I do like to highlight being mindful of the adjective and the pronouns that we actually are connecting with. And then speaking of that, our LGBTQ+ community is something that they feel very misunderstood. So through that community, mental health is arising, substance abuse is arising, and I do like to say that substance abuse is also including alcohol. So we have a lot of nurses, we have a lot of people in mental health or just servicing us in that way that might feel like I can't talk to someone, so they might overindulge. And becoming an alcoholic is not how much you drink or when you drink it. But if you go home and say, do not talk to me until I have my glass of wine, we have to make sure that, you know, we have other ways and other avenues to help them.
Lonnie, thank you so much. Let's, once again,